anytime I hear someone talk about offers, they're always talking about things that an offer should include, things like guarantees and bonuses and all of that stuff. And although those things are absolutely 100% necessary, there's something that needs to happen before those things that actually makes your message or makes your offer really, really powerful. And it's this. You have to let the really powerful messaging dictate your offer, not let your offer dictate your messaging. And a lot of people have this backwards, which leads them to not being able to sell their products, not having any demand, and totally confused because they know their stuff's really good, but it's just not selling. Let the messaging that is working dictate the offer. And when I say offer, I am not talking about your course or program. I am talking about how you position your course and program so that it is a no-brainer offer. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, well, keep on listening because I'm about to break it all down inside of this episode. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about messaging. Boom, 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 messaging. It feels like it's been a while since I've talked about messaging on the podcast. And obviously it's probably why most of you are here. And it's something that I love to talk about. So what I wanted to do is do an episode on messaging and offers. And I see so many misconceptions and backwards ways of doing things that I want to kind of set the record straight. And I want to kind of go over the process that we use when it comes to messaging, crafting offers, creating programs, and all of that good stuff. And so hopefully by the end of the episode today, you'll understand or have a knowing or an idea of the concept that you need to be using in order to craft offers that sell themselves. So for those of you that don't know, every time we go to launch, our last launch did over $1 million. And the launch before that did like 350,000. And which, by the way, for us is a bad launch. When not a great one when we do 350,000 in revenue, and you can just tell by the different revenue levels of where we were at on both launches. However, the launch before that was also $1 million launch, and then the one before that was also $1 million launch. So we did like million. Well, I mean, it was more than that. It was like 1.6, then 1.1, then 350, then 1.2. And we've learned a thing or two in crafting offers and crafting messaging that helps with the offer. Now, there's a lot of things that go into play when it comes to launching, the marketing, all of that stuff. There's a lot of things that come into play. So I do want to go on the record and say the reason why our launches worked or didn't work, depending on how you look at it, wasn't only because of messaging that played into an offer. However, this is one of those things that if you can nail, it will help a lot, but it's also one of those things that if you don't nail, it'll hurt a lot. And a lot of people are running around crafting offers the wrong way, crafting messaging for that offer the wrong way. And I just kind of want to give you a 4-step process on how to fix your messaging so that it doesn't lead to these problems, so that you can create more demand. Which kind of blows my mind a little bit is when we had that launch that did 350,000 and wasn't a great launch, we changed a lot. We changed the messaging. We changed some of the trainings we did on the launch. We changed our marketing. We changed a lot. We added in a new offer. There's a couple things that we did. Okay. And so the thing that blows my mind is that the way we run our launches is that the training, we do a 3-part live training. The training ends on a Friday or a Thursday, and then we open up card on that following Monday. However, what we do is for anyone that reaches out, usually is like, I just want to buy. How do I get in? Like, I don't even want to wait till Monday. Sometimes we'll get them on a call and we'll give them a link to join. And then we do sales calls all through the weekend. So on that Friday, I announce like, hey, cart's opening up on Monday. If you want to see your right fit, go ahead and book a call, talk to someone on our team. or get on the wait list. And so we open up the wait list usually on Sunday. We do sales calls over the weekend. The team does. Last launch, we did almost 200 sales calls. It was like 196 or something like that. Sales calls. We closed a little over 70% of them. And a lot of them happened on that weekend. So what blows my mind is when we were able to shift our messaging and our marketing around, our last launch did 350. We had almost done $300,000 in sales before cart even opened on Monday because of the shift that we made. And again, it comes down to crafting messaging that is working with an offer. And that is literally what the difference could be is, everything you did on your last launch, you could potentially do before cart even opens on your next one when we start to dial this stuff in. So here's the way that most people sort of create courses and programs and offers. And I know for some of the listeners, you're going to hear me talk and you're going to feel like this, oh my God, Brandon's talking about me. No wonder I did it the wrong way. I'm doing all the mistakes he's talking about. If that's you, don't worry. I'm going to give you the solution. It's better to have awareness of what you're doing wrong than to run around blind, thinking that you're doing everything right when you're in fact doing it wrong. So what I want to do is hopefully bring you some awareness of what is going on. How can we improve? What can we avoid? Remember, one of the things that I always say, especially if you're a student, is there are multiple ways to add value into your audience's life. Teaching, more education, giving them more stuff is not always the best way to do it. Or let's put it this way. It's not always the only way to add value in your audience's life. There are multiple ways to add value in your audience's life, and telling them what not to do is a great way to do that. And that's what I'm going to start off by doing today. So here is what most people do. Most people are experts. You have a degree or a certification or knowledge, and you want to get it out to the world. You want to start a business. You want to start a course, a program. Maybe it's a service. And so you just create your course. And they just look at it as, I'm going to put everything that I know inside of this course. For me, it's going to be like, I'm going to put everything I know about messaging into a program, or I'm going to put everything I know about yoga or losing weight or helping people balance their hormones or life coaching. I'm going to just put it into a program. And they don't really think about, what needs to go in. Does everything need to go in? What is the problem I'm solving? Understanding the problems you solve can dictate a lot of what goes inside your course, because if you're going to take a stand inside of your space and say, I solved this problem, you may not need A through Z in order to solve that problem. So now your course has all of this stuff it doesn't really need. Now, again, there's nothing really wrong with doing that per se, but what starts to happen is now that you have everything in a program, what most people do is they go, great, let me figure out how to market this program now. And so what you start to do is you now are stuck marketing A through Z, this program that does A through Z, and you're trying to broadcast it all to the world. And again, it's very generalized. You're talking about so many different topics. Nothing is very clear. If I asked you what problem you solved, you wouldn't actually know what problem you solve for people. And so what we want to do is, again, it's okay to put A through Z and everything you know into a program. In 99% of the time, it's not okay to market that product as doing everything for everyone. It's not okay to market it as A to Z. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to first separate our course from our offer. Your course, your program, it is not your offer. And a lot of people think it is. So what happens is when they go to the pitch, they just basically break down their modules and their videos. Here's what module 1 is. Here's what this is. Here's what this is. Here's the bonus I created for it and all that stuff. And that used to work. That's actually how I used to do it. We used to do it exactly that way when we sold like Local Video Academy and Video Overtake University, which was my YouTube SEO ranking course from way back in the day. A lot of the courses that I would sell usually happen in that way. I'd sell it on a webinar and I just go through, here's the modules. I don't do that anymore. And here's the reason why I don't do that is because you need to understand the problem that you solve for people in order to start crafting your offer. Your offer is how you position the product to the audience. So I know James Wedmore, and he loves to tell this story about the football phone, which was Sports Illustrated, right? So what Sports Illustrated did is they introduced this football phone, and it was like basically what it was a football in the shape of, it was a football, And but it was a phone. So it was a phone in the shape of a football. So it looked like a football, but the top part of it you could pull up and it had a cord, because it's one of those phones from way back in the day, you could talk. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to sell more magazine subscriptions. That was the goal, sell more magazine subscriptions. So instead of saying, here's my product is my offer, and saying, hey, who wants to buy a magazine subscription? You're going to get this article, this article, this article. We're going to talk about these stats and we're going to have an overview of the game. They didn't do any of that stuff. Instead, what they did is they ran a commercial advertising this football phone, how amazing it was, how cool it was. And they said it was like $20. And so they ran this commercial because they knew people would want this football phone. And they basically said it's absolutely for free, or it's $20, and they built a list demand for it. And then at the very end of the commercial, they said, we're going to give you this phone for free when you sign up for a year-long subscription of Sports Illustrated. So the only way to get the phone is to sign up for Sports Illustrated. And even if they lost money off of that, so even if, let's say a Sports Illustrated subscription is $15 and the phone was $20, and they're saying, hey, this phone's $20, is $20, buy it now. Here's all the demand. All these people want to buy it for $20. And they say, you know what? You can't buy it. However, if you buy a subscription for $15, we're going to lose $5. You sign up for a year-long subscription, we're going to give you the phone for free. And again, most people look at that and they go like, that doesn't make any sense. Let's just say the phone does cost them $20, they're losing $5 on every single one of them. Yeah, but you're not looking at the bigger picture. This is another problem that a lot of people have, is you look at everything so granular, so surface level. If you want to craft a great offer, sometimes great messaging for that offer, sometimes we have to look at things not so granular and not so surface level. What you don't realize is that Sports Illustrated actually makes most of the money off of advertising, not for the subscription price. So even if they lost $5 on every subscription, which I know they didn't, but let's just say they did, because they probably got the phones for a couple bucks, but let's just pretend they did. But they boosted their in that funnel, that phone call or that video ad or the commercial worked, and it was just pumping out clients, new subscriptions every day. And let's just say they brought on 500,000 more readers. Well, guess what happens to the cost of advertisers to advertise in Sports Illustrated? They can charge more for the advertising now. So what they did is they created this really great offer up front that was like a no-brainer offer to sell the thing that they wanted to sell more of, which is the subscriptions. And even if they took a loss on the subscriptions, they know they would make it up on the back end with the advertising. And there's not enough people that look at offers that way. And so if we look at this from a lens of messaging, what did they do? Well, they created demand for something they knew people would want. I'm sure they ran tests and tried to figure out what is a product that people are going to want. So they literally just discovered what people wanted. And they said, let's give it to them for free if they buy the thing we really want them to buy. And that's not totally 100% in alignment of what you should do with courses, but the concept is exactly the same. And I'm going to introduce you to a concept of something that we tried to make a really powerful offer. And so here's how we did it. Here's how we did it with our coaching program. And here's how I recommend you do it as well. Instead of looking at your product as the offer, you want to look at your product as a bunch of elements. And so elements might be like, there's this module with these videos, there's this bonus over here, there's this phase over here, there's this pillar over here, there's that over there, and this and that, right? So you take all the elements, take everything that's in your program and put it on paper. And you're just going to leave it there. It's like a library of everything that's in your program. And that's what we did. So just to remind those who don't know, our NGM Plus, our mentorship program, has 3 phases in it. It has our entire messaging philosophy. Phase 1 is defining your plus, going through the problems and the mistakes and all those things, right? It's finding out the foundation of what's going to build rapport and self-identifying. Phase 2 is essentially what the NGM program is. It's figuring out all the language patterns, all the 4 quadrants of content you need, the titles, the topics, all of that stuff. It's your whole messaging ecosystem. And then phase 3 is about sales process. So we talk about how to close on a sales call, how to overcome objections, how to craft a really powerful webinar, how to craft ads that work, emails that go along with that, build out a sales process. And that's basic, like messaging for sales is essentially what phase 3 is. So what I did is I broke down and took out all the elements and I said, okay, we want to craft a really great offer. Let's put all the elements to the side. Okay. So that's what we did. That's what I did very first, from the very moment that we started crafting a new offer. And this was almost a year ago we did this. Then what I started doing is I started saying, what are the biggest problems that we solve and the most popular topics? So there were two things that kind of rose to the top. There is this topic around how to create content that gets DMs, which was taking off, and we decided to run with that. In fact, we're still running with it today because it's still working. But there's this other problem that kept coming up from students, which was like, I don't know how to close on a webinar. How do I take the messaging information and put it into a webinar? How do I craft $1 million webinar? And so I just looked back at our past $3 million launches, which were all basically webinars. They were live trainings. They were 3 days of live trainings. And I just said, what's making these work? And I created a framework around it. So because and that's step one. And that's what I did is I started with step one. I said, what is the most popular topics? What is a big problem that we solve? Again, step one is not looking at your course or the modules. You want to take all that stuff and break it into elements, but put it off to the side. Don't do anything with it yet. That is not your offer. So then what we started to do is craft training around those topics. So again, a part of our sales process is figure out the biggest problems that you solve, the most painful ones, the ones that people resonate with the most, or find your best topics that people are over the moon about. What's getting the most downloads, the most engagement, the most shares, the most likes, all of that stuff. Which, by the way, if you can't figure that out in your just normal everyday content, then you're gonna have a really hard time selling as well. And I'm willing to bet people that have sales problems also have content problems. Because if you don't have a content problem, we'll just do the same thing in your sales and it fixes the sales problem. So you want to figure out what that is. Okay. So we came up with 2 topics. Topic number 1 was how to create content that gets DMs, but the other one was around how to craft a really great webinar. And so we came up with 2 titles. Title number 1 was like how to create content that generates DMs in 72 hours. The other topic was how to craft your first 7-figure webinar, something like that. Right. So again, we crafted both these webinars with the intention of selling NGM Plus, which has those 3 phases that I talked to you about before. So then I just solved it for people, right? So we did a webinar, we did on those 2 topics, and that's nothing new. You probably have all known to do that, like do a launch, do a webinar, do a challenge, do a video series. So step 2 is solve it for people, which is pretty obvious, right? Okay. So that leads us to the very next step, which is, again, just to recap, we have step number 1, figure out the problems that you're solving for people, the biggest problems that you can solve for people, and what are your best topics. Do webinars on those, and you solve it for people on the webinar. Now, again, it's not as simple as just solve it for people. There is a psychology, there's a process to crafting really effective webinars. If you're an NGM Plus student, you have access to all of that. You already know that. If you're not, you're just a listener, then you probably know that too. Like, we don't want to just get up there and teach. We want to create demand. There's a psychology that goes into solving the problem for people. But then we move into step number 3, is you have to look at the topic of that messaging. You have to look at the topic of the webinar. You have to look at the topic of whatever your funnel is. Look at the messaging in the funnel. Again, if the messaging is based off of your best performing messaging from your funnel, from your content, from maybe your through play campaigns or whatever it is, wherever the testing is that you're doing, there's a ton of ways to do the testing. If you're using the most powerful messaging that came from actual real results from testing, and you put it into your webinar, it's going to become really, really powerful. And what we want to do is we want to craft our offer off of that. Again, most people don't do this. Most people make the offer their program, and you absolutely don't want to do that. You let the messaging dictate the positioning of your offer. You let the messaging dictate your offer. We don't let the offer dictate the messaging. And this is why so many people have messaging problems. They create a program that has everything in that they know in one program, and then they try to sell it and market it and teach everything that they know in their upfront content. And then you're generalized, you give an overview of everything, you're blending in with everyone else. Instead, test problems, test content that comes from problems. What is your best performing content? build funnels off of that, build webinars off of that. And then what we do is when we find our most powerful messaging, we let the messaging dictate the offer. Let me give you an example. When we ran our 2 webinars, one of them was how to get DMs from content. The other one was how to craft a 7-figure webinar. Here's what I did. The DM, the content, when I did the webinar on here's how to create DMs that get content, or here's how to create content that gets DMs, my offer was the program the way it's set, because sometimes you can do that. And it made sense to do that. It was like, okay, cool. I taught you one messaging framework. Imagine what would happen if you had the entire system. You had thought reversals and educational content and all the language patterns and that. And I was able to do that there. But let's look at the second webinar. This is how we crafted a very great offer for the second topic. I did not let the program dictate the messaging. I let the messaging dictate the offer. Here's what we did. The second webinar, it was titled How to Craft 7-Figure Webinars. So what I did was when I got to the pitch, I said, okay, that's the overview of how to craft really effective webinars. Now, for those of you who want to help and want our help, you want a one-on-one call. You want me to do a 2-day workshop with you. You want my team to help craft the webinar. You want me to look over your ads. You want me to answer your questions every 2 weeks. Come into this workshop that we're doing. You'll have access to me for 6 months to ask questions and things like that. Come in and it's $10,000. And by the end of the time, our 2-day workshop together, you'll have ads that are done that are effective. If they're not effective, I'll rewrite them personally. We're going to help craft the webinar for $10,000. You're going to have a webinar that can make you $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000. Is that worth it to you guys? If so, again, it's not a course. I'm literally going to be helping you every step of the way. That was my offer. But guess what? All that was phase 3 of our NGM program, NGM Plus program. So NGM Plus, like I said, phase 3 is how to build out a webinar, how to do the ads. We're going to give you a one-on-one call. We're going to do all of that stuff with you. That's just a part of the NGM Plus program. What I did not do is I did not go in there and get them sold on webinars. I did not get them excited about webinars just to sell a messaging program. No, absolutely not. I didn't just sit there and go, hey, you want to do a 7-figure webinar? Here's how you do it. Here's how you do it. You guys want to do a 7-figure webinar? Great. Buy my messaging program. That's a terrible offer because all I did for the hour, the entire funnel, the entire webinar, all I did was talked about webinars. So shouldn't I let the messaging dictate the offer? Shouldn't I position my offer as getting them and helping them create a webinar? Doesn't that make sense to do that? So again, that's all I did. And I said, here's the offer. I got them sold on that offer, which was only phase 3 of my program. Out of 3 phases, it was only one of the phases. I got them sold and willing to pay $10,000 to attend that 2-day workshop. Then what I said is, look, I also have a messaging program. So we are going to help you with the webinar. It's $10,000. Not only that, but I'm going to help you craft content. I'm going to help you change your language patterns. I'm going to help you dial in, help you stand out inside of your space with all of your content. I'm going to help you drive leads to those webinars. I'm going to help you with your communications, and I'm going to help you close sales calls. I'm going to help you do all of that. And I'm going to do it for free. I'm going to give you 6 months of support and training of my entire messaging program, all the support, and I'm going to give you access to all of that stuff for 6 months. Absolutely free. If you buy this messaging program right now if you buy this webinar program right now for $10,000, I will give you 6 months of messaging support, my complete program, how to close the calls, all the language patterns, everything. That alone is worth $10,000, but you get it absolutely for free. Now, let's remove ourselves from that situation and look at what I just did. It's still the same program. I didn't change anything inside of the program. The offer changed because the messaging was getting people sold and building a desire to do webinars. I was able to take just a single piece of my program and make it the core offer. And then all the other core elements of my offer now became bonuses. So if I can get someone sold at a $10,000 price point on just one phase of my product, All the other stuff becomes bonuses, and now it's becoming a no-brainer offer. Now, again, I didn't do it that way when we did the other webinar. The other webinar, I just presented it as it was because it made sense to do it that way. But when we start to focus on our top performing pieces of content, our top problems, we let the messaging dictate the offer. Sometimes you do not need to have your entire program as the offer of that you make when you go to sell. And a lot of the times where people have offer problems is because they try to make everything the offer when it doesn't make sense to do that. Because you have to understand, if you're doing your webinar the right way, and this is how we teach it, if you do your webinar the right way to create a desire and a demand for something, then sell them whatever that is, however you need to sell it to them. And then whatever you don't need to include in that, you make it a bonus. Now, when they come into the program, a lot of the next question I get asked is, well, Brandon, if I do that, then my program, then I have to rearrange my program. No, you don't. Just do a simple 5-minute video that says, thank you so much. You came in for our webinar training. Here's how it works. I'm giving you my entire messaging program as well, absolutely for free. There's 3 phases that I recommend you go through. The webinar stuff is actually phase 3. So let's go through phase 1 and 2. I promise when we have phase 1 and 2 dialed in, it's going to make your messaging better, your content better, but we need the information we're going to get from that to help you build a webinar. So let's start with phase 1 on your messaging. Great. A quick that wasn't even 5 minutes. That was like 30 seconds just explaining how the course is going to work, what they got, what the process looks like. You don't have to change your program. And again, one of the reasons why people get so stuck and create really bad offers is because they don't look at the messaging leading up to the program, the messaging leading up to the offer. And you have to start creating offers that align with the messaging. If your messaging is here to create demand, you have to figure out what problem is the biggest one they want solved. What's the best topic? How do I create demand for that? How do I make that my offer? And again, if we look at the Sports Illustrated episode, or commercial, that's exactly what they did. Hey, this football phone seems to really be gaining a lot of traction. We did some surveys. People really resonate with it. We're actually selling it in our magazine. It's like our #1 bestseller. Let's give the damn thing away for free if people buy subscriptions. And so what they did is they looked at what is the most popular item, what is the most popular topic, what this stupid football phone thing is. So let's just give that to people. Let's give it to them for free. Let's make a no-brainer offer. So they're able to sell more of what they want, which helps them on the back end to sell more of where the profit really comes in. And they all started by crafting a really great offer. Okay. So let me recap these steps real quick. It's find the problems and the topics that resonate the most with your audience. Solve it in some sort of webinar. But again, you have to be able to create demand at the same time. And that's an art form and a process. If you're in NGM Plus, we have it all in phase 3 for you. Then what you want to do is after you're done solving it, you want to open up more problems. And I'll give an example here in a second. And then you just give the solution to those problems, which is the offer. So again, step 1, I found a topic people wanted, which was how to craft a 7-figure webinar. I did a webinar and I solved it. I created demand. At the end of the webinar, I said, look, I gave you guys the process today, but here's all the mistakes that can be made. Here's all the information that we still need to cover. I still need to help you. I still need to find the topics. We still need to have the right messaging. We still need to have all of those right things. So here's what I have for you. In order to help you solve all of those problems and get everything dialed in, I have a 2-day workshop coming up where I'm going to help you craft a webinar. We're going to go over your ads. We're going to go over this. We're going to go over that. And it's $10,000. By the end of that, you're going to have a webinar that's completely done. 90% chance it's going to work the first time. If not, then we'll come back and help you. I'm going to help you write your ads. I'm going to do calls with you. $10,000. And that was the solution. Now to make it more of a no-brainer, I added in, and I'm going to give you 6 months of my messaging program absolutely for free. This is a $10,000 program that you're getting absolutely for free. If you sign up in the next 24 hours, bam, they come into the program. Then when they come into the program, I'll say something like, okay, congratulations on getting your webinar help. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the messaging so we know what to put in your webinar. We're going to give you the language pattern so you know what to say on the webinar. We're going to start in phase 1. We're going to move through phase 2. And then phase 3 is building out the actual webinar. And that's the way we sold it. So we sold it as a no-brainer offer. Now, I will say what I'm talking about today is really more focused on paying attention to the messaging that's working. Let that dictate how you position your offer. But there are other things that you want to include in an offer that we didn't go over today. So I know people like Michael Maidens and even James Wedmore talk a lot about offers, and there's so many different things you can put in there, different guarantees and promises that help craft the offer. And when you start to add in all these little nuances that a good offer needs, combined with the messaging and the process that I walk you through today, you start to create really powerful, no-brainer offers that people feel like it's just stupid to say no to. And that's what we want to craft. And a lot of times when we sit there and we create a program and give them A to Z because it's everything we know, without ever asking what problems we solve. And then we have this big monstrosity of a program and we go, I'm going to market this thing, but I talk about way too much but I'm going to do it anyways. And that's what my content's going to be about. That's what my sales funnel's going to be about. That's what my ads going to be about, trying to sell this massive thing. Sometimes it doesn't really work too well. Sometimes finding a smaller problem and solving it on a webinar and then rearranging your offer, taking the elements of your program to craft a really big offer is one of the best ways to sell something. So give it a try, think through it, and let me know how it goes. If you love this episode, I'd love to hear a review on iTunes. I love reading those reviews so much. They really do make my day. And you can also just send me a DM on Instagram at @IamBrandonLucero. I hope this was eye-opening. I hope this was really helpful. I hope this helps you craft a lot more offers and helps you make a lot more money. So take care. I'll see you all on another episode. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested. And thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.